Hello and welcome into the Oasis Solutions Group presentation for Affordable Care Act reporting. Today we will be doing part 3 of our 5-part series, and we'll be focusing on the ACA Employer Maintenance in Sage 100. Please note that Oasis is not in the business of giving tax advice. So this presentation is not intended to advise you on your governmental responsibilities, but it's simply a way to educate our users on the features and functionality of Sage 100 that will provide the ability for you to complete your 1094 and 1095 forms for reporting. So any specific tax or legal advice that you need, we advise that you consult with your professional tax or legal provider as appropriate. So as part of the reporting for the Affordable Care Act, there is an employer maintenance piece. And if you, after having run your applicable large employer report, and you have looked on your report and have an average for the year of 50 or more full-time and full-time employee equivalent, then you may be required to report Forms 1094 and 1095. So in the employer maintenance piece, if you are considered an applicable large employer and must file these forms, you can use the employer maintenance screens to enter information that's going to appear on your 1094 form. And keep in mind the 1094 form is to report whether or not your company has offered full-time employees an opportunity to enroll in your sponsored health care plan that meets the ACA minimum essential coverage requirements. So navigating to the employer maintenance, and again, for users that will need to do this, you do need to allow the security access via role maintenance. And if you need to know how to do that, please view our Section 1, Part 1, regarding the general setup for ACA. But once you have allowed that, you can navigate to the employer maintenance screen by going to payroll, then the ACA folder, then the ACA employer maintenance option. Once you have done that, you will receive the ACA employer maintenance screen. And so at the top, you would enter your year. And then once you have done that, the next piece is your company information. Now this information, notice that it is grayed out. That information will populate from your company code maintenance. So if something is not correct there, then you would need to go to company code maintenance to make the corrections there. Then you would enter the contact information, and this information would be then printed on your form once it is generated. In the next section are options regarding your filing. There is on the ACA forms to use, there is a drop down to enter the set of forms you will be filing. So the options are the 1094 and 5B forms or the 1094 and 5C forms. The policy of origin code, this is a code that you can enter that will print on your 1095B form, Part 1, Field 8. So if you are a 1095 filer, that is the code you would need to designate there. ALE member, part of an aggregate group. If you are part of an aggregate group, it just means that your company as well as other companies are under common ownership and need to be reported to the government to be considered collectively on the Affordable Care Act provisions. And if you are part of the aggregated group, you would then select that box. Once you have done that, in the upper right-hand corner, right now it's not selected, so there is a button there that says Other Members. If selected, then the Other Members button becomes enabled, and you would be able to go in and enter the information for the other members of your group there. If you are a designated government entity, then you would enter your information in this section with the designated government entity. And then the final section are a series of check boxes, and you would select as required. This is for Form 1094C, Part 2, Section 22. So again, if you are part of an aggregated group, you would select the checkbox. The Other Members button then becomes enabled and will take you to the Other ALE Members of Aggregated ALE Group screen. And then from there you can enter the name of the other members of your group as well as their employer identification numbers as well, so that you can be considered collectively. Then you would click Accept and it would save that information. In the upper right-hand corner of the ACA Employer Maintenance box, there is also a monthly detail, and this will provide the information about your full-time employee counts. So once you click on that button, you're taken to the ALE member information, and it does list the information monthly. The first column of checkboxes is to designate whether or not you have offered your full-time employees an opportunity to enroll in your sponsored health care plan that meets the ACA minimum essential coverage requirements. So if you have done that for each month that you have done so, you need to check the box. The full-time employee count and the total employee count, those are the numbers that can be generated from your applicable large employer report, as we discussed in the previous presentation, Part 2. So if you said yes at the end of viewing or printing your report that you wanted to update your employer maintenance information, it would fill in the information for you automatically. If you are not using your applicable large employer report, you can manually enter the information there as well. If you are part of an aggregated group for the months that you were part of an aggregated group, you would then select the checkbox in that column. And the final column is the transition relief indicator. If you click in the space provided, you will get a drop-down box and you'll have the options there. So if your company is eligible for Section 4980H, transition relief, you would enter the code indicating the type of relief for which you were eligible. So once you have entered your information, then you can click Accept at the bottom, and then on your employer maintenance screen you can accept again, and the information is then saved. So next in our ACA webinar series, we'll be discussing the employee maintenance piece in our Part 4 presentation. In our Part 5 presentation, we'll be discussing printing forms 1094 and 1095. Again, there are additional IRS resources. Here are the links for the Affordable Care Act provisions, the Information Center for applicable large employers, and the 8 things ALEs should know about reporting offers of coverage. For additional questions or to schedule update installation or additional assistance, please contact Oasis Support. Our phone number here is 502-429-6902, extension 227. Our email is techsupport@oasisky.com. Thank you again for joining our presentation.